Hey everybody, Rachel here with Givebutter again. Thanks for joining for another success story from the Givebutter community. Today we are highlighting Help Peru. Recently, this organization set out to raise $38,500 and brought over $54,000 on Givebutter and raised over $70,000 total during a 3-week-long crowdfunding campaign to provide 100 oxygen concentrators to help Peruvians recover from the COVID-19 crisis. I have Alejandra here with me to share how they made this event so successful, as well as you know them, you love them, tips, tricks, and lessons learned. Alejandra, thank you so much for joining and for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having us.
So to start, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your incredible organization?
Well, my name is Alejandra. I'm the Executive Director of Help Peru.
Mm-hmm.
Help Peru is a nonprofit, a public charity that is in New York, based in New York. We, like the name explains, it's pretty self-explanatory. We raise funds to support projects, development projects in Peru. And we mainly focus on education, development, women empowerment, environment, and the cultivation of philanthropy amongst Peruvians. But of course, we always have special initiatives when there's an emergency. And specifically since COVID happened, it's been an ongoing emergency like everywhere else in the world. So we've been focusing on that a lot.
Amazing. Thank you for the important work that you're doing. So you recently, speaking of emergency campaigns, you held this really important crowdfunding campaign to provide oxygen for many Peruvians, and many more than you even set out to help. Can you tell us a little bit more about this project? Why were you raising funds right now for that? And what was your plan going in?
Well, Peru, explain the pandemic in Peru. Actually, Peru has been the most affected country in terms of excess deaths in the world. So comparing to the same period in previous years, Peru is the country in the world that has where more people have died, basically. I don't know how that's going to change now that India is in flames, but for the whole year, like it's still dramatically larger than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the country is very ill prepared for in terms of healthcare. Basically, when the pandemic started, I think they had a little less than 500 ICU beds in all the country for 33 million people. So they were really not prepared at all for anything remotely close to this. So even though everything has been like they've increased the resources for healthcare and like a lot of, hospitals have been built and new units and new ICUs, it's still not enough. And basically right now there's a dire need of oxygen, and a lot of people are just dying because they don't have enough oxygen. Even at the hospitals, they don't have oxygen for their patients. And even the hospitals are not able to actually take in any more patients because they're completely at capacity. So if somebody has a mild respiratory deficiency, they're not able to get treated, and it might just get really bad and they may pass away. But this is something that is treatable, and this can be treated at home. Even if you just have, if a doctor prescribes oxygen therapy, if it's not a very dire case, it can be done at home, and it will usually last about 2 weeks. And so what people had been doing is they had been purchasing oxygen tanks, which you have to refill every 1 or 2 days. And then they had to wait for days to actually refill those tanks, for like sometimes up to 4 days and 4 nights. A family member would be lining up to try to get a refill. And then they just refill it. And then 1 day later, they're back there. Also, the prices went up really high. Like there was a black market for oxygen. It's really dire. And so we thought that a good way to help was providing oxygen concentrators. So the difference between an oxygen concentrator and an oxygen tank is that the capacity of a tank is finite. Like you can only have a certain amount and it has to be refilled. If you have a concentrator, you can take the air from the room, and then the machine filters it and concentrates the oxygen and then provides it to the patient, and it can keep going as long as it has power. So it's really good for treatment. And the ones that are smaller, like the ones that we were raising funds for, the 10 liters, actually are portable. So what we decided we could do was like, we could buy those concentrators and lend them to people for the length of the treatment. So we set out to get 45 concentrators, and we ended up donating 100 concentrators, which is great. And so we're partnering with this organization on the ground that's doing the work of taking note of who needs them, see the medical prescription, lending them to the family members who come and pick it up, and then make sure that they return them. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing more of the urgent need that you were raising funds for. So what made you choose this format, this 3-week format crowdfunding on Givebutter? Why did you think this format would be so successful?
Well, honestly, we weren't sure. It's the first time we were using Givebutter. But we thought if the campaign was shorter, it was more likely to raise an interest. If you see that you either do something about it now or you won't have the chance to do it, we thought it was an urgent call and that it would work better that way, potentially. So we set out to do a 2-week campaign. And then as we saw that we had raised, I think we raised half the funds by the first week. So we thought, or even faster than that. And we thought, we need to keep this going. So by the end of the campaign, we had already reached our target and surpassed it. But we thought, if people are really interested in donating to these and they see the urgency, why don't we keep it open for another week and see if more people can help? Then we can provide even more concentrators, and that's what we did. Yeah.
Amazing. And your graphics were just so beautiful. Your story section was just really captivating, the way that you laid everything out. This is a solvable problem, give a breath of life, just very memorable, inspiring messages here. And then your video below. What are some of your tips, tricks, or lessons learned? Your first time using Givebutter. Tell us more.
Well, it seemed pretty intuitive to use, and I think also for the donor on the other side. But I think we just tried to be a little creative to call people's attention. And so that's why we decided to just go and design something in Canva, which is free. And,
Nice.
so we thought this may be a good idea. And in order to be able to tell the story more graphically, like I personally, I'm a very graphic person, so I retain the images in my head. So I thought, this is probably the way to go. And so we created the content using our colors, and then the color of the campaign, which was the green for the oxygen tanks that we were trying to substitute for the oxygen concentrators. And we just tried to tell the story in a way that people understood mattered, but also would make a difference if they donated. This is such a humongous problem that you may be overwhelmed by it, but we thought there is an option. Like there is a solution. If we there's a solution to those lines. People don't need to be lining up for days. We could just be providing concentrators. It's just that they're very expensive for the everyday person. Like not everybody can buy one of these, and you don't need them all the time. But if you could borrow them from someone, they could save lives. And they can work for a really long time. They don't necessarily have too much difficulty using them. Anyway, so we just wanted to convey the message that this is a huge problem, but it's a solvable one, and you can help. I mean, it's measurable. Like one concentrator at this point costs $700. You can donate a part of it and just save somebody's life with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being that this was your first time using Givebutter, was there anything that you learned that either you would do differently the next time or would definitely do again?
Well, I think I would do one thing different. We did, because we improvised the campaign a little bit due to the urgency. We didn't really have the time to think through so much of like the format of the page itself. And for instance, I think I would add more team members from our team to the screen, to help you fundraise. So because right now you open up and you see a lot of people who are volunteers who are helping us. But then some people don't necessarily recognize them as the faces from Help Peru, people who know Help Peru already. So I think next time we raise funds, we're probably going to have like the faces of the board of directors and other people, that people may usually identify with our organization, because I think sometimes people opened it, and I mean, I've gotten comments from friends and like, who are these people here? And I said, well, these are volunteers that are raising funds for us, but it may not be as intuitive as I thought. So I think it could be useful to just have people from your team be the public face. And then of course you can add other people to raise funds for you, right? But at least just make sure that we add those up ourselves or ask them to do it, so that everybody recognizes, the organization.
I see. Yeah, that's a great tip. So just as we close here, is there any word of encouragement or advice that you might have for other fundraisers just like you who are following along right now?
For us, it was I think it was very lucky. I mean, it was out of luck that we ended up donating all of this concentrators, right? Because we set out for a much smaller amount.
Mhm.
But in the end, I think, like you said, the storytelling captivated some of our donors who just asked other people to donate in tribute. And then we got a large donor who just got, very touched by the campaign, and she was, involved with Peru, and she just decided to donate a large amount of concentrators herself. I don't know. I think it's just convey the message in a way that it's solvable. I mean, of course, you're not going to solve, hunger in the world, but if you explain how one bit at a time, it is something that you can achieve. I
Yeah,
think it's more realistic, and somebody can feel like they can really make a difference in their donation. Because sometimes if you donate $20, you think, what is this going to do, to end the oxygen crisis in Peru?
right,
Well, it does. It really does.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I know I will certainly remember that language after the fundraiser. This is a solvable problem. You made you made me feel like I could make a real impact when I looked at this page when it was live. So thank you for the incredible work that you do for saving lives and for using Givebutter to raise funds for this campaign.
I'm glad. Thank you so much. And thank you for portraying our case. We hope it helps a lot of people.
Of course. And for those who are following along and want to follow you and help Peru after watching this, where can they find you?
We're on Facebook, on Instagram, and our website is help-peru.org.
Perfect. And thank you again, everyone, for following along today's success story. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Givebutter's YouTube channel so you never miss another incredible story. We will see you again next week. And until then, happy fundraising. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.